Quarterplex here, also known as Sir Quack on some of the brew forums, as well as Justin TV. If you follow CraigTube or Maniac, any of those folks, I usually go by the handle Sir Quack on Friday and Saturday nights. This will be my third homebrew video. The first one I did was a True Brew Hefeweizen, a Bavarian Hefeweizen. That video should be on YouTube as well. My second beer was a Brewer's Best kit. Actually, it was a summer ale. It was a seasonal summer ale. And then this one that I'm about to do is also a Brewer's Best kit. It is a Kolsch. Basically, the description that Brewer's Best gives the Kolsch is a crisp, clean, easy drinking ale. Has a straw yellow hue similar to a Pilsner, but is less hoppy. A bit sweeter, and uses pale malts and a small amount of wheat. In order to achieve a lager-like characteristic, they do recommend like a Kolsch liquid yeast. I'm just going to go ahead and use the Nottingham that came with the kit. So anyway, we'll get started here. I'll show you the ingredients here. Turn the camera around. Also, both of my kegs are currently empty, so unfortunately I can't drink a beer while I'm doing this, and I don't have any store-bought beer. I do have a Lime-A-Rita. My wife likes Lime-A-Ritas, so that is what I'm going to be drinking during this brew. Got some crushed ice in there. It's not so bad. But anyway, we'll get to the ingredients here, and we'll get brewing. So here is the kit that comes with the Brewer's Best Kolsch kit, as well as comes with some nice instructions. I really like Brewer's Best because they have some really good detailed 2-page instructions. The kit comes with 2 pounds of Bavarian wheat dry malt extract by Breeze Malt Ingredients, it looks like. It comes with a can of Pilsen Light Pure Malt Extract. Liquid. You got two packets of German Tettnang hop pellets, actually 2 ounces total. You got your Nottingham yeast, which the Nottingham yeast instructions say they recommend kind of rehydrating them before, but I've also read on some forums that it's okay to just dry pitch them, so I think I'll just do that. Comes with your crushed malt carapils, the grains that you steep, and then also it does come with bottle caps and priming sugar, but since I'm kegging, I don't do that. So anyway, and as I said, it does come with some very detailed instructions. We're going to follow that pretty much to a T, but might stray away a little bit as we go. Then there's the grain bag. So basically, I'm going to get started here. I'm going to get the water heating up to steeping temperature, and then also start warming up my liquid malt extract to make it easier for that to be stirred into the wort. And then later on, after I get to the last step, I'll go ahead and be dropping my wort chiller that I made myself into the wort to kind of sterilize that. I already have cleaned it with some Star Sand, just setting it in a bucket for 5-10 minutes, so it's pretty clean, shiny, but most people drop it in like the last 10 minutes into their wort, so we'll probably do that. So anyway, I think that's about it. I got my bottle of Star Sand there in case I need it, and then of course my Lime-A-Rita there, so we'll see you soon. I know some people like to leave their bloopers for the end of the show, but I just had one. Was trying to heat up the burner here for the liquid malt extract, and I turned on the front burner by mistake. As you can see, my wheat bag and a paper towel were actually sitting on this front burner, and as I was waiting for this to heat up and I was setting up my camera, I started smelling something. So it looks like I'm okay. I caught it before the bag got completely burned through or caught on fire, so I think I'm still good. Just things happen with home brew. We'll go ahead and get this heated up to 150, and that's usually when you start steeping your grains. So I'll go ahead and get my grains put in the bag there, and we'll show that here in a little bit. Looks like the water is about 150, So we're going to go ahead and put in our grains and steep them for 20 minutes. The instructions here say to start with 2.5 gallons of water. What I usually do is I usually use 1.5 gallons of tap water, and then I use distilled water for the rest of my brewing, for kits like this. The reason being, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, is that if you use the mineral content from your tap water, basically gives you a double footprint of the minerals and everything that are built within the extracts that you get with these kits. So there's a lot of things on the internet about that, and most people will say that it's okay to use distilled water. I usually still use a little bit of tap water myself, but keep it to about 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons, and then top my fermenter off with the distilled water. So, and my beer always comes out great. So basically for 20 minutes here, what we're going to do is we're going to steep these grains, and I'll kind of gently move the bag around in here and stir it a little bit. Want to keep this from 150 to about 165. If you go over that, I believe the grains start releasing some stuff off that can change the flavor of your beer. So you want to keep it right within the steeping range of 150 to 165. And we'll do this for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back to the next step. Okay, it has been 20 minutes at about 160 is what that says. So we're going to go ahead and take the bag out of here, and then we're just going to let it kind of drain into the wort. We're not going to squeeze or anything. Just try to get every last flavor in there. I did notice there's just a little bit of the grains must have came through the bag itself into the wort. I don't think that's any cause for concern. These bags aren't exactly like a tea bag or anything, so unfortunately I think that's just going to happen. Okay, so we're going to get that out of there, and then we're going to bring this to a boil. And once that gets to a boil, then we're going to go ahead and add our liquid malt extract. So we'll be back here in a little bit. Thanks. Okay, well my wort is, I guess it's might be considered wort now, is boiling. So what I'm going to do is I took off the cover of the liquid malt extract. You have to be careful here because this gets really hot if you've been putting it in a pan or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, and then we need to keep it stirring really well so it doesn't caramelize on the bottom of the kettle. This kettle works pretty good. It's a real heavy stainless steel, thick plate at the bottom. I've never had a problem with anything sticking with it. We're going to keep it stirring. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of my hot water here and kind of put inside this container so I can get every last bit of that liquid malt extract. Stir that around, just flip on the sides a little bit just to make sure we get everything. This stuff's really concentrated, so you might as well save every last bit that you can. Boy, that is still hot, so go ahead and dump that in here. Yeah, nice and clean, just a little bit left, but that's good enough. So we're going to go ahead and keep this stirring, make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan or the kettle, and bring it up to a boil again, a nice rolling boil. Once we get a nice gentle rolling boil, then we'll go ahead and add one of the bags of hot pellets, the German Tettnang pellets, 1 ounce. So we'll go ahead and do that and be back in a little bit. Okay, the wort is back to a nice gentle rolling boil after adding the liquid malt extract. I mentioned earlier, I think I made a mistake, I mentioned I was going to add the German Tettnang hops. That's actually after the 40-minute boil, so that's probably more of a flavoring hop, I believe. So what we're going to add now is the Fugel, the UK Fugel hops, 1 ounce. So we're going to go ahead and put that in here and just kind of slowly introduce those in. Now the thing about this is the point where you start having to monitor your hop rate. And basically what's going to happen is this boil is going to come up, it's going to start foaming, and you have to make sure it doesn't get over the top of your kettle. Those that have done home brew know what that's like if you're not paying attention and that boils over. So we're going to keep a close eye on that, and we will minimize the heat as needed. Usually what I've found works pretty good is just kind of lifting up the kettle off the burner as it starts to rise, let it settle down, and eventually you'll get past that hot break, and then you'll be good to go. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it here and make sure it doesn't do that, doesn't foam over. Some people use a spray bottle with water and just kind of spritz it a little bit. That works too. But I found just kind of slowly taking the heat off calms it down. Usually have to do that 4 or 5 times, maybe more. And still have a little bit of my limerita here I'm doing. Seventeen, cheers. Prost in German. Toast. Whatever you celebrate. This is one of the best hobbies someone can have if you're a beer drinker or a wine drinker. There's nothing better than home brew, and you can you can make basically what this kit will give you is what's equivalent to about, I think it's about 52 beers, and this kit was $25 here at a local home brew store that here in Des Moines. Want to put a plug out to Beer Crazy. If you're ever in the Des Moines, Iowa area, Beer Crazy is quite a nice store. And then you got over by Cedar Rapids, I think it's, trying to think of the town he's in now, but Terpsichorean Kid, I believe is how you pronounce that on YouTube. Terpsichorean. He was over by Chicago and opened up a store over in near the Cedar Rapids area. Great guy. If you're ever over there, I'd definitely stop in there as well. So we're going to watch this and make sure it doesn't boil over. And like I said, usually what I do is just kind of lift up one side of the kettle, calm it down, and just keep doing that until it settles down. This one might not actually boil over until later after I add some the dry malt extract, which that is after 40 minutes. So we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, folks, we are after the 40-minute boil, and 1 second, I was in the middle of watching a Homebrew Wednesday with Craig Tube, so let me pause that a minute. There we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, Craig, by the way, if you don't subscribe to Craig Tube, I highly recommend it. He's one of the people that were influential in me getting back into home brewing. I used to brew years ago, shortly after college, back in the 90s, and kind of got away from it for many years, and now I'm back into it. So the other thing, I said earlier that I was out of beer. My kegs are both dry, but unfortunately I remembered I had some of the beer in one of those kegs that I had bottled, actually, using a bottling wand that I plan on doing a video on at some point, where I basically just have a special attachment I put right into my acrylic tap, and then I bottle right into bottles with it. So I'll do a video on that. But this basically was the second brew I did. It was a Bavarian Hefeweizen. You can kind of I don't know if you can see the nice color, kind of a copper color. And when I poured this a little bit ago, I mean, it was a very thick meringue head, and you can see the lacing, but this is just wonderful beer. Oh, man. Anyway, cheers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes, because the next step is the dry malt extract. Sorry. So we're going to go ahead and pour this in here. We're going to keep it stirring, and then we have to watch it from boiling over. That's the main thing. So I'm going to kind of put this in here, stir it as I go. And probably what's going to happen is the temperature, it's going to drop a little bit. Take a minute for it to come back up, but not much. It's okay. And so that's exactly what happens if you don't keep stirring. I think basically what this is you can see it's all cakey there. As I was pouring it into the wort, the heat coming up from the wort was getting into the bag, and basically that's what happens. It gets just real thick. So that's why it's important to keep this thing stirring while you go. You know, you don't want that sticking at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and pour the other one in here. And that's what it's doing. It's clumping on the top of the wort as I put that in there. So that time I got most of that one in there. Okay. So we're going to keep this stirring good, because if you ever have had it boil over, as most of you guys have had, excuse me while I throw that away, but it's not good. Once this thing comes up to a boil, it's going to start foaming up, and you definitely have to either drop the heat or lift the kettle up, one of the two. As I mentioned earlier, some people use a spray bottle with water just to kind of settle down the foam. That works well too. I've only used that once, but I find that just, like I said, lifting the kettle up slowly, adjusting the heat on the burner, that works fine for me. So, alright, so we're going to watch that here a little bit, because I'm guessing once that boil comes back up, it's going to need that cooling process. So you do this for 5 minutes, then we add the German Tettnang hops, which are kind of I suppose more of an aroma hop. The other one I think was more of a flavoring hop, because it was put in there a much longer period of time. So it might take a minute for this to come back up, but we will watch that closely. Oh, that's good stuff. There's nothing wrong with extract brewing. I know a lot of people out there, the all grain guys, and I understand that, but kind of like some of these other folks, I just don't have all day, I don't have all weekend to do. As you can see, it's starting to rise up now, so I'm going to lift the kettle up, let it settle down a little bit, drop it again, and just kind of keep doing that, keep stirring it as you do that to get it, get it back down. And you want at the bottom of this thing, you can tell it's getting kind of thick. But you just keep doing that, keep stirring, lift that up to reduce the heat. Eventually, after, I don't know, a minute or so of doing that, it'll settle down. It'll start another nice rolling boil, where you don't have to worry about doing this, and then you're good to go. Hopefully by the time my 5 minutes is up, I'll be able to put those pellets in. So anyway, we'll continue to do this, and we'll be back in a little while after put the pellets in, the German aroma. And then after that point, it's basically just another 10-minute boil, and then we're done. It's basically a 55-minute total boil kit, which most of them are about that. So anyway, I'm going to go back to watching Craig Tube Wednesday Homebrew, and cheers. That's lacing. For those of you that know TSA, that's lacing. Alright, so I'm into my last, I got the German pellets in there. The boil settled down, the break. I got 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put the wort chiller in here. And we're going to hit go the last 10 minutes. And then basically after that we will go ahead and take this downstairs, immediately get it hooked up to the, I'm going to go ahead and put this in here just in case. Just in case it starts squirting out. I don't know, I've heard some people say that the heat, now there's really no water in there right now, so there shouldn't be, I guess there shouldn't be anything coming out, I guess, so that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and let this go for 10 minutes, and then we will meet you downstairs, and we will start the cooling process, get it down to like 70 or so, and get it in the fermenter. Sorry for that, the fan was on. I didn't realize that till just now that I was yelling. But anyway, we'll go ahead and do that and get it downstairs, and we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, I've got the wort down here. It got to the 10-minute mark, so I brought it down here. I have hooked up my wort chiller to my water tap, and I'm circulating cold water through the wort as fast as I can to drop the temperature from, it was up, around the 200 plus mark for boiling, and it's dropped down now to, it's right around 130 and dropping pretty fast. I did put 1 gallon of cold distilled water in there, and that helped it. It went from 150 to like 120 in no time, and it's continually dropping. Once it gets down, according to the instructions, to around 70 degrees or less, that is when you can then take this wort and pour it into the fermenter. I'm going to use the fermenter that I got with my Cooper's kits. This one's full of star sand, otherwise I'd use that one too, but this one's cleaned and everything, ready to go. I've got my strainer here to help keep out any of the hops, or the trub they call it, I guess, that's still in there, because you really don't want that in your beer. And then we'll go ahead and top this off, fill it up to about the 5-gallon mark, and put the lid on. Go ahead and put in the airlock and go from there. So basically it's just a waiting game now until this gets down to around 70 degrees. It is currently at about 115. So it's dropping, it just takes a little while. And then the next time you see me, we'll be pouring this into the fermenter and topping it off to 5 gallons. And then we gotta wait. The waiting game. So we will see you in a little bit. Okay. It looks like the temperature is now down to 70 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of the fermenter, the temperature gauge out of the fermenter, or excuse me, the wort. And I'm going to go ahead and kill the cold water and pull out my wort chiller. Put that in the sink for now. And we're going to go ahead and pour this into the fermenter. I already put a gallon of cold water in the bottom because you want to kind of mix it up and help with aeration. And then this strainer will also help with aeration. So the fun part is being careful and pouring that in there without spilling all over the place, which I've done before. So here we go. The strainer helps catch all the hops and I think they call it the trub. And from what I've heard from others, it helps aerate it. Helps aerate the wort. This is the time when you do want oxygen in your beer. Okay, so that's all. The rest of that is just green hops and things like that. So let's get this out of the way. Now, clean it up a little later. And let's go ahead and we're going to take this and let it drip a little bit, because some of that's good stuff. And we'll go ahead and put that in the sink as well. For now, we're good with that. Now what I'm going to do is bring this fermenter up here, and we need to top this off to 5 gallons, which is basically a little under 19 liters, I believe. It's like 18.93. And we're going to go ahead and stir this as well as I do this. Kind of help aerate it, bring it up to temperature, bring it up to, or bring it down to temperature, help keep it down below 70 or below, and then bring it up to the 18.93 mark, or about 19 liters is close enough. Yeah, pretty close. That's about 18 liters. So we'll go ahead and crack open another one. Good stuff. Okay. We'll put some more cool water in here. And that is about a little more there. Right at the 19 liter mark. It's close enough for comfort. And we got a nice stir going on there. Okay. And that currently says 20, a little under, about 20 Celsius, a little under. I don't recall. I'm going to go ahead and give the lid another spray of Star Sand. Put that on there. 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know if I have anything that tells me, but I think that's pretty close to. Let me look on this here. I think this has both. It does not. But if I recall, 20 or a little under 20 is about where you want it. I'll have to look that up in a little bit. So, but the main thing is you don't want to pitch your yeast when it's too warm. So, you know, basically looking at that. Just putting my temperature gauge in there. You know, I'm a little under 70, so 68, 70, something like that. So I think we're good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead, and I've already sprayed this. I even sprayed the packets with Star Sand and the scissors, just to, you can never be too safe. So I'm going to go ahead. And this Nottingham yeast, it's really hard. People have asked about that. And that's just because they do a vacuum sealing. And it just feels like it's old, but it's hard as a rock. But as soon as you break this packet open, air gets in there, and look at that. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch the yeast in here. Okay. There's a little bit that got on the towel. Let those babies go in there too. So, all right. And we are good to go. I don't know. The instructions say to gently stir the yeast in, and that's another topic that a lot of people go back and forth on. Stir gently. Stir. Well, this one says stir well, but then I've heard others that say, don't stir at all. The yeast will work themselves down through the, foam to the beer. So I don't know. This one here, I'm going to just let the yeast set on top and kind of work their way down through the foam and into the wort in the beer. Nice and tight there. And we'll go get our airlock here, which I have Star Sand in. The cap on. And just gently put that in there so it doesn't mess with the rubber seal. That's in there good. And I know I got a good tight seal because if I push on the top of the airlock, that's going up. So got probably a little too much stuff in there, but that's okay. And since that's going up with pressure, you're good to go. And I'll give it a little shake to help the yeast. What the heck? But I think we're good. So until next time, cheers, and thank you for watching my video. And we'll see you next time. 17.